just go whenever you're ready.
How did your visit to Dachau and seeing the Nuremberg Trials affect your perspective on life?
Prior to going to Germany, I think my highest expectations had been to maybe become a farmer or maybe a cattleman of some sort, dairy or beef cattle. But beyond that, I had no thought as to what I might do. After seeing the atrocities that I saw both at Dachau and during the trials, I began to appreciate how inhumane man was capable of being to one another. And it made the decision that it was important that my life in some form make a contribution to society, that I help people. And at first I thought maybe I would do that through the ministry, but soon realized that that really wasn't what I was cut out to be. And then ultimately, after having been in the military, I discovered social work. And that was the area that I was most suited for, both emotionally and intellectually, and with my background, that this is a profession that is concerned with people and their interaction with their environment and each other. And I was able to find a profession that fit my need to make a contribution to society.
Okay. What were some of the things that impacted you the most when you witnessed the Nuremberg Trials?
Several things were extremely important. One was to have seen the lampshades made out of human skin, and to see watch fobs and other leather goods that were actually of human skin instead of like leather, which we would use, leather craft. And to have seen the person responsible for those atrocities. If you entered into the concentration camp at Dachau, East Germany, that you were and you had a tattoo, you were going to die in order to meet that person's desire for human skin and tattoos. And the other thing was the exposure to the gas chambers, which were originally reported to have been showers, which were, they put them in for showers and then gassed them, and the ovens where they cremated the bodies afterwards, and then the trenches that were dug in order to contain the remnants that were left, just again was part of this horrendous inhumanity to man. And the other thing I remember is the testimony of a young lady, Jewish lady, who was just a few years older than I was, in her late teens, early 20s, telling all of her experiences in the concentration camps, and how she was the only survivor of an entire family, a very large Jewish family, including her both sets of grandparents, her parents, and lots of aunts and uncles and cousins that had been literally killed in some form or another, worked to death, experimented on, put through the gas chambers and that sort of thing. And all of that resulted in my having a sense that somehow or another my life had to be such that it made a contribution to society.
How did the Germans respond to having Americans occupying?
Well, I know my sister's music teacher, Herr Heller, who taught piano, had been a Luftwaffe German Air Force pilot. And he insisted that most Germans were glad that it was the Americans that occupied Bavaria. Most of them were terribly afraid of the Russian forces and for the type of government and control that the governments the Russians espoused. The other thing is that in the orphanages that we provided a Christmas for were the two young ladies that had lost their legs from frostbite, and they were there because they had fled in front of the Russian troops, and with the goal of getting into American territory so that they would not have to remain under their control. And as such, I think most of the Germans that I came in contact with were pleasantly surprised at both the attitude and the kindness of the American soldier towards the population.
And what were some differences you noticed while living in occupied Germany between East and West Germany?
I know that there were, I never visited East Germany while we were there. However, I know that one of the reasons for the ultimate building of the wall, what they call the Berlin Wall, and extended all across Eastern Germany, was the fact that people were escaping to the western side and coming into Bavaria in an attempt to get out from under the control of the Eastern government, which was a puppet to Russia. And all of them seemed to appreciate the freedoms that were available in the western part of Germany at that time.
Okay, and I'm going to add this one. What was your experience with the barter system that was the economy at the time? Can you explain what that barter system was and what one of your experiences with it was?
The barter system was, there was no money until early 1948 when the Deutschmark was introduced into the German, and that was at the time that they established the government for West Germany. And they introduced a monetary system. Prior to that time, everything was done trading of goods. And one of the incidents that I experienced was there was a little fair that came to town, and I went to see it, and I had 3 chocolate bars. And I spent the entire afternoon at the fair riding rides, the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round and things of that nature, just on 3 chocolate bars, because chocolate was so scarce that they thought that that was important. One of the other things I remember seeing was that there was no fuel. The only fuel available was for American and occupation troops and their vehicles. So one of the vehicles that was being used in Bamberg was a converted German car where they had taken the trunk off of the vehicle and inserted a boiler that operated on coal or charcoal. And they had removed the gasoline engine and installed a steam engine. And it was slow, but it did provide some transportation to the family that owned it. But it was strange to see a hot water heater sticking up out of a trunk of a car as they moved through town.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.